Meanwhile, a shooting at Amazura Nightclub in Queens, New York has injured 11 people, including 6 males and 4 females. The NYPD reported that there were 3 to 4 men who fired over 30 shots at a group standing outside the venue, hitting multiple victims. The shooting occurred around 11:18 p.m. and all victims are expected to recover from the known life-threatening injuries. The motive remains unclear, but authorities are investigating a light-colored sedan that was seen in the area. What needs to now be addressed is whether this is an isolated incident or are there broader security concerns facing major cities as the new year begins, but more importantly, as the United States of America begins the countdown to bring in its new president, Donald Trump. Let's quickly listen in to some of the visuals that have come in.
At all. I pay too much money in rent to be outside fighting for my life. That's a fact. Pray everyone survives. Yeah, everybody up against the wall. That's crazy. And obviously, they still driving around looking. I feel like a reporter. Well, I am a reporter, but I feel like a news reporter now.
Was attacked to make that connection, and even obviously a lot earlier to make a connection between the current ongoing attack and the New Orleans attack. But obviously the timing of them all within 24 hours, which is designed to create fear, is the beginning of
I didn't see nobody get real though.
Yeah, it's right. That one's right there.
Shots. And they all over
Maybe
here.
someone robbed a bank.
Oh. Go
It
get
doesn't even look like a bank. It looks like a club. There's multiple ambulance. There's multiple police cars.
shots.
All right, so there we've seen some of the visuals that have also come in, but let me take the larger conversation forward. I have with me on the broadcast Ambassador Baswati Mukherjee, we have Pathik Pain, Major General A.K. Sivach and Professor Madhav Narapad. Let me begin with Ambassador Baswati Mukherjee. Ambassador Mukherjee, New Orleans, an attack takes place at 3:15 a.m. on the 1st of January, and then we hear that there's another shooting that has occurred in Queens, New York. At the face of it, what does it really seem like? Do they seem like very isolated incidents, or is there something larger at play going on in the United States of America?
Well, Devika, having lived in New York for 3 years, working for our permanent mission in New York, there are two things which are similar about New Orleans and about Queens. Particularly, New Orleans has a very large black community. Queens has a very large black and Indian community. Queens is a law-abiding area. It's a great place to go to for Indian food, for instance. It normally does not have much violence, unlike New Orleans. And what is curious over here is that it could be either of two things. It could be an incident of racism, or it could be the fact that there is a rampant gun culture in US, and that gun culture has not been reined in because of the strong support of the right wing of the Republican Party for no restrictions on guns at all, and it could be either of the two. Whatever it is, I'm very relieved to know that there are no casualties and that the person who could be responsible is being traced. But I would say that it could very well, because I'm not familiar with the exact location. I was looking it up. There are areas in Queens where the blacks are heavily settled, and other areas where you have the Asians, usually the Indians and some Chinese. So I don't know which part of Queens this attack took place. This nightclub is situated, but it could very well be racism. And when you talk about the inauguration of President Trump on 20th Jan, we must also be aware that it comes with also one negative side, which is the extreme right wing, MAGA, which is taking on skilled Indians, trying to cut down on their visas, etc., taken on Elon Musk, forced the president to support Elon Musk, etc., means that there is an internal power struggle within the two wings of the Republican Party, the extreme right wing fringe and the more moderate fringe, which actually never supported Trump at all until they saw the writing on the wall. And this extreme right wing fringe have been indulging in a lot of India bashing. In fact, of people who have had American passports for 25, 30, 35 years, like my elder sister. So they are telling even these kind of people to go back to India, saying there's no place for you here, go back to India and do your bit to help your country. In other words, they don't recognize them as American citizens. So we will have to be prepared also for these kind of incidents, which will become possibly more common after President Trump's inauguration. I would like our Indian audience to be aware of this aspect of Trump's election, judging from what has been happening over the last 1 week, particularly on the whole issue of H-1B visas. Devika.
Right, absolutely. Pathakrit, bringing you into the conversation, what do you make of this particular attack that has taken place? And what's, of course, more worrying is that the cops are yet to make any arrests in this particular case. They fired about 30 rounds at the crowd. The cops say that 4 men were walking down the street and they approached the crowd and they fired about 30 rounds, and then they ran towards 143rd place, where they got in a light colored sedan with an out-of-state plate. Now, luckily, no one's lost their lives in this particular shooting incident, but there were about 90 people who were inside at a private event where this has taken place.
Devika, a small correction. My surname is Fine, not Payne. So, secondly, let me put it this way. First, of course, 4 people together coming is never a gun violence. It is an organized thing. So, as Ambassador Mukherjee mentioned, it can be something related to, these race conflicts which is going on. And we cannot completely ignore the potential possibility of an ISIS kind of a lone wolf attack, not exactly a lone wolf. If you look at what happened in Syria, and I have been telling it for quite some time, what happened in Syria in terms of basically United States and Western Europe sanitized ISIS, put it a different name, and they installed them as a government in Syria, ousted Bashar al-Assad. And I said it quite a few times across various forums that it is going to inspire the sympathizers of ISIS to create lone wolf attacks across Western Europe and in United States, where many of them have got into those countries without any kind of checks and balances ever being made. Now, if you look at what happened in the Christmas attack in Germany, in Magdeburg, there have been several such similar attacks in the past. Then you see what happened in New Orleans. And in connection to that, if there is a specific motive behind what happened in New York, in Queens, that cannot be ruled out. But there are so many multiple layers of conflicts and violence ridden society of United States today. Unless something very concrete comes out, it is very difficult, premature to pinpoint on something specific. But I think today, as things stand, Western Europe and United States and even many of the countries of Asia has to be on tenterhooks on the issue of these lone wolf attacks that may happen, because that is precisely what ISIS inspires their supporters to do. And in any case, if you look at the American society, no disrespect, but the reality is that it is not very difficult to actually get a gun and shoot. It is very easy. Secondly, on a larger spectrum, if we see what happened in Germany and what happened in New Orleans, this is also a very, very big cause of concern, how automobiles are getting weaponized to ram through crowds for creating, mayhem and injury and death. So overall, as things come nearer to the swearing in of President Trump, I think there are different kinds of violence that we might witness. Although it is not restricted to United States alone, and not everything is related to the Trump swearing in, but I think there are challenges coming up across the world. In that context, yes, this violence is a big issue, but at the same time, gun violence in its own is not a new thing in the United States unless remedial measures are taken in terms of checking the proliferation of that. Back to you.
Right, absolutely. Professor Madhav Nalapath, your thoughts on the same as well, sir. An attack takes place in New Orleans and you have all of the agencies, investigative agencies, etc. coming together really to look into what's happened in New Orleans, Louisiana. And then suddenly hours later we hear of this particular attack taking place in Queens, and there's a cyber truck that is set on fire outside Donald Trump's hotel. Is there some sort of message or signal that's being sent out, or does one look at all of these incidents in isolation?
Devika, the FBI has clearly said that the New Orleans attack is an act of terrorism. And you just mentioned about Bangladesh. This is the whole problem with having illegal migration into any country. You get in all kinds of people, including people who form sleeper cells. And they wait and wait and wait until an opportune moment comes to strike. So regarding the Queens shooting, particularly is quite right. Shootings are unfortunately very common in the United States. A large number of lives have been lost as a consequence of that. So what inspired this shooting, we don't know. Whether it was societal issues in the sense of not able to fit in society, whether it was employment issues, whether it was racism, whether it was terrorism, we are not sure until more facts come to light. Having said that, I'd like to point out uncontrolled migration is a huge risk. And may I point out that, when we're talking about bringing back the conversation to India, for 50 years, there's been uncontrolled migration almost between the Bengal border and the Bangladesh border. And all kinds of individuals have come in, and many of them may be sleeper cells who may be activated. So this is a huge risk in uncontrolled migration. President Trump has vowed to end uncontrolled migration, illegal immigration, and that's a very necessary thing to do. I just want to say that particularly this is quite right. I mean, first you had the UK situation in which a vehicle plowed through a crowd, and then you had Magdeburg in Germany, and now you've got New Orleans, and now you've got, of course, the Queen shooting. Now, it's very interesting about the Elon Musk thing near Trump Towers, the Tesla, because thanks to the design of Tesla, the damage was limited because the explosion came upwards rather than sideways and in all directions. That is because of the design of the Tesla. But these are all very worrying symptoms of a society that's going through huge problems and where it's getting very easy to recruit individuals to carry out acts which are in effect suicide bombings. I mean, those who are doing this will know that when you go into a situation and you ram a crowd, you're very likely to be shot by the police. So in effect, these are suicide bombers, and it's a very worrying development that it seems to be so easy a task to get suicide bombers. And I think the target that is now being mentioned, basically the Western world. You have got the UK, you've got Germany, you've got the US now. And again, what the reasons are, we can't say. But yes, there is no, in case the terror attack, it's a very significant development, and Trump will have his hands full in trying to ensure control over it for a simple reason that if you look at the New Orleans, if you look at some of the attacks in the US, they've been ex-military. People who are recruited in the US military, who managed to learn about bombs and guns in the military. And this kind of seepage of extremist elements into a military, into a police, into the civil service is always a risk. And I think in India, I'm sure we're drawing the proper lessons, come down hard on smugglers, come down hard on illegal migration, and above all, come down hard on the narcotics trade. Narcotics trade, smuggling, illegal migration, and terrorism are a table with four legs completely standing together, Devika.
Right, absolutely. Let me bring in Major General A.K. Sivach as well. Major General A.K. Sivach, your thoughts on what has happened in the past 48 hours. Is this a worrying sign also for an incoming president like Donald Trump? The fact that we're just merely 2 weeks away now from his swearing in, and as soon as the new year kicks off, 3 attacks, at least 2 of which have now been labeled as acts of terror, and this particular shooting in Queens, we don't know much about it because the 4 suspects continue to be out there. The law enforcement agencies are yet to make any arrests as far as this particular case is concerned, but for the other 2, the cyber truck blowing up and also the attack in New Orleans, both the suspects have been found. They were of course killed in the terror attack itself. What is it, as in your assessment, that's really going on?
Yeah, Devika, no doubt about it. I suppose before Donald Trump takes over, this is a cause of concern. There is no doubt. The radicalization is on increase, and it is increased because there is illegal migration taking place. Whether it is US or Europe, whether also in India also. Now you see all the 3 cases, those they are slightly different, but then they also convey the same meaning. As far as New Orleans is concerned, this Shamsuddin Jabbar, he is basically a military veteran. He has served in the army from 2007 to 2020 for almost about 13 years. He was the IT specialist. He served in Afghanistan from 2009 to 10, and he was basically got radicalized. And before he has rammed this vehicle in the crowd in New Orleans, he had also basically downloaded or uploaded a video wherein he is saying that he is a radicalized and he's a ISIS module. So the point which is come is that how is a black chap getting radicalized, and he was from a military. This is a cause of concern. It means radicalization is in a big way taking place in US as well as Europe. This is where they have to take a sort of consideration whether it is a lone wolf or it is a bigger picture. And I suppose there is a bigger picture to it. There are a number of modules, there are sleeper cells, there are overground workers, there is a lot of funds coming, and they've been helped, and they are the one which is radicalizing the society. And the one which has taken place in Las Vegas, again, the truck which was blasted with the explosive and which was basically very close to the hotel where the Trump was staying. Now, both these cases are related because the truck has been hired from the same app. Both are terrorist action, and they seemingly looks to be that they are linked. But the third one, which has taken place in New York City, Nightclub in Queens, this possibly is a purely gun culture. The point today is that this sort of thing is increased. In fact, it is not coming in a press. Almost every day there is a gun violence incident taking place in some or the other place in US. And the reason is simple. The availability of gun is so easy. It is so easy to take a weapon. It is difficult to take a medicine in US. It is very well known. Now the point which is coming, 70 to 80% of the people who are adult, they are owning a gun. And when it is easily available, this also can be taken by the children, and then they are using it. Now remember the Second Amendment of the Constitution of US, which has stated very categorically that owning a gun is a right to protect oneself. So this is what it is. The gun culture is one, and the point which comes is why gun culture is not being stopped. One is that of course Republican, but it is understanding by both Republican and Democrat, because they are the one which fund the election. They have a lot of money. The gun culture is so strong. No government, whichever comes in US, has a courage to put restriction on this basically gun culture, because they have the one which are funding the election, both on the Republican and both of the Democrat. Though there is some understanding which is reaching that they will make a minimum age at 21, and those who are mentally not stable, they may not able to own a gun. But certainly one thing is there, that there is a requirement of strict laws coming in US. Otherwise, gun culture is so much there that the availability of easily a gun can now make the whole society slightly criminalized, and this need to be taken care of. As far as the radicalization is concerned, I think after 9/11, there was a time when the US was very strong in ensuring the radicalization does not take place. But the way illegal migration has taken place through Mexico and Canada, there are number of sleeper cell and overground workers which are there within US and which are a radicalized youth and which can be a threat for the US society. And I suppose Donald Trump has to really take some action after he takes over on 20th January 25. Devika.
Ambassador Mukherjee, will this be then, or rather should this be a top priority and top agenda item for Donald Trump then? Cracking the whip?
It should be, definitely, and I agree with what Pathikrit said, and his surname is Payne. Fine, sorry, I make a mistake myself. What Pathikrit said is very true, that the West, especially the American deep state, having legitimized the IS in a way and giving it a different name, similar to what they've done in other places in the world, it's not a new thing, have actually opened up a tinderbox which will threaten their own internal security. We are used to dealing with terrorists in our backyard, in our border, right inside the heart of Delhi, as pointed out. I am aware of where some of these illegal Bangladeshis have been living, for example, in Gurugram for a long time and reported them to the police. So we are used to it, unfortunately. We live a life which is very uncertain, unlike these people who are used to what you call in Italian the dolce vita, the soft life. And they are going to find that they have actually opened up a can of serpents inside their own country by turning a blind eye to what could be the consequences inside. These increasing gun attacks will put pressure also on the new President Trump to try to rein in and bring in some kind of gun control. There's no doubt about that. But that is not the crux of the matter. The crux of the matter is that now it would appear that the FBI and other agencies have lost control in tracking down possible suspects as they used to do very effectively, let's say 2 decades ago, especially immediately after 9/11. I remember they got quite good at tracking down internal dissent and going after these people. They're not doing that anymore, and they will pay the price for it, unfortunately. I fear there will be many more attacks taking place across the length and breadth of the United States in the months to come. Devika.
Right, absolutely. That's all the time that we have, and I thank all of our panelists for joining us on the broadcast to take this conversation forward. With that, viewers, we step into a very quick break.